And I'd like to welcome everyone who's on the live stream, joining us from home back there at the camera. Thanks so much for joining in this afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Jonathan Ogorchak. I'm proud to be representing Duquesne's Alumni Board of Governors here as its president. We're here today to recognize and welcome the newest member of the Golden Dukes, members of the classes of 1970 and 1971. We're so happy to be able to gather here together in person to celebrate after such an unprecedented year. And we wouldn't be here today without the efforts of the classes of 1970 and 71 50th reunion committees. So would all the committee members who are in attendance please stand? I would love to give you guys a round of applause. So 70th and 71st committee members. All right, thanks everyone. We'll be inducting all of the class members in just a short while. At this moment, though, I'd like to recognize the other Golden Dukes who are here today observing a milestone year. So would all of the members of each group stand together as I announce your class year? So for the class of 1966, any of our Golden Dukes from 1966? I thought there was someone out. There we go. Class of 1965. All right, I'd also like to recognize the other Golden Dukes who are here with us today, not celebrating a milestone year, but would all alumni who graduated in 1969 or earlier please stand up? Excited to have you all here. So we're honored to have a very special guest with us today. Ken Gormley is now in his 6th year as the president of Duquesne University. He joined the faculty of Duquesne's Law School in 1994, was appointed interim dean in 2008, and served as the permanent dean from 2008 to 2016. President Gormley is a constitutional scholar and the author of 3 books, including a bestseller examining the showdown between President Bill Clinton and Special Prosecutor Ken Starr. President Gormley earned his bachelor's degree from Pitt and is a graduate of Harvard Law School. Before coming to Duquesne, he clerked for state and federal judges, engaged in private law practice, and taught at the University of Pittsburgh Law School. He's also the former mayor of Forest Hills, Pennsylvania, and was the first academic to serve as the president of the Allegheny County Bar Association. Please give me a warm welcome for Duquesne's 13th president, Ken Gormley.
Thanks very much, Jonathan, and it is great to welcome all of you back to campus here. It's undergone some pretty amazing transformations since you were students here just a few years ago. So welcome to all of our newest Golden Dukes from the class of 1971, also the class of 1970, who I'm thrilled could join us this year because we couldn't gather in person last year due to the pandemic. It is really fun to go around and see all of you. There are many friends in here. Judge Maureen Lolly-Green, Pat and Rita Joyce, Kathy Strautmeyer, Ron Swain, and Crystal. Each of them has said their table is the most youthful of the whole group. Who thinks you are the most youthful table out here? That's what I thought so. Pretty much everyone. But all of you, which is really an amazing thing to think about from both the classes of 70 and 71, were here on campus together during a really amazing time. At that time, obviously, new buildings were going up actually at a rate of 1 per year. And this very building, the Duquesne Union, you probably remember, was brand new. Most of you watched it being constructed. And that was one of many of the bold initiatives that sprung from the vision of my predecessor, Father McAnulty, who did so many amazing things. It was obviously a great time of change across the nation, too. As you remember far better than me, the controversial war raging in Southeast Asia, civil rights protests in communities around the country that I later studied. But in the midst of it, many of you became a sort of special breed of young activists. Really, with when you think about it, Duquesne's spirit and mission of caring for others that was driving you forward. And so, back in the spring of 1970, whatever your views on the controversial issues of the day, you all united to show your love for Duquesne by advocating for the third alternative that would famously help the financially strapped university stay alive. And obviously, the story is legendary now that you went door to door collecting funds for this institution, gained national attention with that 96-mile march from Altoona to Pittsburgh and the giant rally at Point State Park designed to say thank you to all the people of the region who gave so generously to Duquesne University. And I always talk about it is truly one of the greatest stories in the entire history of Duquesne University. So I know that Pat and Rita Joyce were instrumental in that, and they served on the 50th Reunion Planning Committee, and so many others of you were part of that. I know that Pat and Rita have been organizing a special third alternative program for tomorrow, and it will be a great opportunity to reconnect, reminisce with old friends. I am so proud of the work that Pat and Rita and so many of you have done to keep that spirit alive throughout the years, especially with the vital Third Alternative Scholarship Fund, which has allowed some of the students facing the most difficult circumstances to continue their education here. It's really interesting to think about it because back in the early 1970s, when you all were young students facing challenges of your own that confronted you at that moment in history, you may not have sat there thinking about it just like these kids up at Chick-fil-A or whatever today, but you were paving the way for today's generation of students. I was just out there on academic walk addressing them, and there's so much energy and so much enthusiasm, so much optimism. They are facing challenges. They're different challenges, not the least of which is attending college and emerging into a workforce in the midst of a global pandemic. But I can guarantee you this, like all of you, these students are facing those challenges with real perseverance, and they also continue to ask important questions about our rapidly evolving society today and tackle these new challenges through a distinctive Catholic spirit and lens that is given to them at Duquesne as they receive their educational foundation here, just as you did, that will help them to be at the top of all of their professions, just as you have been. Speaking of paving the way, we are continuing the work of transforming our beautiful campus here on the Bluff. How many of you haven't been here for like 10 or 20 years? How many of you haven't been here for a while? So kind of a dramatic change, isn't it, to walk onto campus? Most recently, we have the new UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse. I hope you have a chance to see it. We'll be having one of the first major events there tomorrow night with Evening of the Stars. I hope you're going to be able to join us with Norm Nixon, our legendary Dukes basketball player, and his wife, Debbie Allen, who just won 3 Emmy Awards last weekend. While I was on the phone talking to her about Evening with the Stars, I realized I probably should have let her get her Emmys first. But right across Forbes Avenue, if you haven't gone down to check it out, across from what was the Palumbo Center, now the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse, we are clearing the site for our proposed new College of Osteopathic Medicine. We completed demolition about a month ago of the old Life's Work building there, and we'll be breaking ground for the beautiful new building, state-of-the-art facility in the spring, and plan to have our first cohort of students in the spring of 2024, specifically aimed at training primary care doctors to work with underserved urban and rural population. populations the clear crisis in healthcare and the lack of primary care docs to do that important work, and the healthcare disparities that have been really revealed vividly during COVID, makes this the moment. And it is the biggest project in the history of Duquesne, since this went from being a tiny little Catholic college teaching English and Latin to a university with a law school and nursing school and pharmacy and so on. But as much as things continue to change, one thing that will remain the same is our commitment to all of you as the alumni who are the bedrock of this institution. I always remind my team, and I always remind my our alums as I go around the country, that all of you really helped to build this university as we know it today. And you continue to allow it to grow and thrive, whether you're helping to encourage young people in your family or your community to consider attending Duquesne, and that's really a really important contribution, or if you guide our students in getting first-rate career opportunities. We were just in Hershey doing an event a couple of days ago, and so many people there are helping to provide internships and job prospects for students. Or if you step up to contribute financially to these important initiatives. I was telling Pat and Rita, if any of you have $25 million to name the osteopathic medicine school, please see me after this speech. But in all of these ways, you can play an integral role in allowing Duquesne University of the Holy Spirit to keep reinventing itself, just as Father Mac and others did when you were here a half century ago, even though it's hard to believe that much time has passed. That is how we are going to achieve even higher levels of excellence for a new era, as we laid out in our strategic plan. And you, our alums, and especially you as members of the memorable classes of 1970 and 71, will be our secret weapon. So congratulations on reaching this very important milestone as you gather here for your 50th reunion. It is so wonderful to see people reconnecting and sharing memories and everything. I try to get stories out of people, but I don't get a lot of good ones. I think people are protecting each other, actually, because you both know too much on each other to tell me the stories. But it is so nice to see people sharing laughs and wonderful memories. And I look forward to seeing you all around campus tomorrow. Be sure to cheer on the Dukes football team. They've been looking pretty good. First FBS win in our history the other week. Yep, a fabulous team. We were actually cheated last year. We should have won the championship. I won't get into that. But we'll be facing down Virginia University of Lynchburg at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, evening with the Stars. And there's a little dinner, no charge, outside on Academic Walk here in front of College Hall. I think it starts about 6 o'clock or so before that evening event. But on behalf of our whole university, I wanted to be here personally to welcome you back to your alma mater. Duquesne University will always be your home, and you'll always be an invaluable part of our Duquesne family. And we are so grateful and proud of everything you do. We look forward to your continued help, your continued guidance in building Duquesne for a new, exciting era, guided as we always are by the Spirit who gives life. God bless.
Thank you very much, President Gormley. Now, for a little walk down memory lane, I'd like to introduce one of our new Golden Dukes from the class of 1970, Dr. Ronald Swain. Dr. Swain holds a Bachelor of Arts and Master of Education degrees from here at Duquesne, a master's degrees from Shaw Divinity School in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and a Doctor of Education degree from the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. With over 4 decades of experience in higher education administration, he began his professional higher education career in the Student Affairs Division here at Duquesne in 1970. Throughout his career, he held positions at North Carolina State University at Raleigh, Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, the oldest historically black college in the southeastern United States, the United Negro College Fund, and served as the 15th president of Wiley College in Marshall, Texas. Beginning in 2000, he served as senior advisor to the president of Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas. He retired from Southwestern in 2013. Following his career in higher education, he formed Swain Consulting Services LLC in 2013. And currently, he serves as director of Transformative Missions Ministries at the First United Methodist Church in Georgetown. Thank you, Dr. Swain, for sharing not only your Duquesne experiences with us today, but how that experience has impacted you over the last 50 years. Dr. Swain.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is there anybody here? Is there anybody here, Mr. President? Good afternoon, everyone. After that delicious meal, I can imagine that some of you are taking your siesta. I'm delighted and honored to be on this program this afternoon and to share with you some remarks, some memories from my experiences here at Duquesne University, and also how it has impacted my life over these last 50 years. A few days ago, as I was thinking about this presentation, I looked through my 1970 yearbook, and those of you who were in the class of 70, you probably have a copy of this as well. And on page 112, there's a statement that I had not read before. And it talks about what happens at Duquesne University. And it goes like this. And when it's over, 4, maybe 5 years brought to a close on a Sunday afternoon. For sometimes the years spent here have been good ones. For others, they may have been miserable. However it was, this time is sure to leave its impression on those who graduate from Duquesne. Some will be much more the same as they were when they came. Others will have changed almost entirely into different persons. The diplomas they receive have meanings for each of them. For some, it will be a key which will open doors too big and to better things. For others, it will be a symbol of disillusionment and frustration. Hopefully, those who graduate from Duquesne leave with the realization that their learning is not finished. What they have received here is only a foundation for the real learning that is yet to come. They will know this when the time spent here has been spent well. If not, they will be sorry, and we will feel sorry for them. For they have spent the years here at Duquesne, but not in Duquesne. They have been touched, but not grasped. And the years here have been lost. My friends, my years at Duquesne University was certainly not lost. And I'll share with you in the next 30 minutes that I've been given to deliver my presentation. Thank you, President Grumley, for ceding me 3 of your minutes. But really, I want to share with you just a few thoughts of what happened as I arrived at this great university and how it has impacted my life. And there are 2 quotes that I want to share. One is on the wall that I saw in this building by Father Henry McAnulty, who was president of the university when I arrived in 1966. It is not the purpose of a university to reshape the world, but to shape the students entrusted to it, who will then go into the world. Dr. Father McAnulty. Another quote that I'd like to share with you is from a man who made an impact on me very early. And he said, labor to learn before you grow old, for learning is better than silver and gold. Silver and gold will vanish away, but the beautiful learning will never decay. That was Father John Galvin, our pastor at St. Peter Claver Church in Macon, Georgia. I was born and grew up in Macon, Georgia, and lived there from 1948 to 1966. This was during the Jim Crow era of racial segregation, especially in the southern United States. Coming to Duquesne University and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1966, I traveled to this place for the first time, sight unseen, on a Greyhound bus. And yet it expanded my knowledge and my life's experiences. As a junior here, after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4th of 1968, the reality of racial injustice became clearer to me, and it was the beginning of a turning point in my life. As a junior, I organized and coordinated a black-white workshop to raise awareness about local racial injustice at Duquesne and in Pittsburgh. There were a few, if any, black faculty or staff members here. There were no African American oriented courses. There were a handful of African American students, and most of the males were basketball players. The old garage next door to this building, which today is the McAnulty College of Arts and Science, was being repurposed. However, there were no black contractors on that job. I believe that the workshop that we organized and the events that followed during that time, including some sit-ins at Dean Harry McCluskey's office on the sixth floor of this building, led to some changes here at Duquesne University. The university responded by hiring black faculty, one of whom was Dr. Margaret Malyans, who taught sociology of the black experiences, one of my life-changing courses. More black students were enrolled. The Department of Counseling and Learning for Black students was established. Blacks were hired on the College Hall construction project. Not only was I involved in that activity, but I was also active in the third alternative. And I particularly participated in the phonathons, calling alumni to raise money to save our beloved university. I believe that the experience in the third alternative sparked my interest in philanthropy and led to a professional career in fundraising for higher education. I have been blessed during my life to study at some outstanding schools, including St. Peter Claver Elementary School, Mount DeSales Academy, where I was the first African American male to graduate, which also led to my matriculation here at Duquesne University. Since leaving Duquesne, I've also been blessed to study at other institutions of higher learning. For me, the learning which Father Galvin talked about in those early years of my life has led to action, especially action for racial justice. A mentor of mine constantly reminded me, and quote, education is the great equalizer, end quote. And so my life has been dedicated to higher education, helping young men and women, especially those who were marginalized, to see the aspirations that lie ahead of them, to see the dreams of what they might become. More recently, beyond the activities in higher education since my retirement, in 2014, I began what we now know as Courageous Conversations About Race in Georgetown, Texas. And beyond the conversations, we formed learning action groups to focus on issues like workforce affordable housing, living wages, public education, public safety, and health care. I believe that my learning here at Duquesne was not lost. And so today, as we continue to work, we're working with God and with you to create and nurture what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described as the beloved community. Duquesne lives on in me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swain, for your comments there. I'd like to also introduce a member of the class of 1971 to share some additional memories of her time at Duquesne and the impact that it had on her life. The Honorable Marion Lally Green. Judge Lally Green served as the Dean of the Duquesne University Law School from 2016 until 2019 and now serves as Professor Emerita. She previously served as a full professor in the law school from 1983 to 1998. Lally Green graduated from Duquesne University with a BS in secondary education and mathematics and a JD from the School of Law. From 1998 through 2009, Lally Green served as a judge of the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. From 2009 through August of 2015, she served as the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh as an Associate General Secretary and the Director of Office of Church Relations. Thank you, Judge Lally Green, for sharing your stories with us today. Judge Lally Green.
This is my safety net in case I start to choke up, huh? Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the class of 1970 and the class of 1971. Craziness brings us to this point, but we get the joy of all celebrating together, so all good. First of all, a heartfelt thank you to Audrey and her whole team on putting this together and everyone else who supported this event today and the whole gathering together of all of us here over these next 2 days. Thank you also always to the people who served us today, because the food was great and the service was splendid. So Audrey, if they're not around, tell them how much we thank them. You know, it's been over 50 years since my class, said goodbye to the undergraduate life, and 51 for many of you, but it was really 54 and 55 years ago that we first walked onto this campus. I came to Duquesne in September '67 from a small town in western Pennsylvania. I was the oldest of 8 children. No one else had gone to college. My mom had not gone to college. My father had, down to the little school in Latrobe at St. Vincent College. And they were both keen on getting a college education and insisted all of us prepare ourselves for college. They also taught each one of us to be good people and to do our best. And to me, those teachings made sense where I lived. Small town USA, do good and do your best. Be good and do your best. But what was expected of me when I came into this huge city, a metropolis to me, the city of Pittsburgh, and stepped foot in September 1967 on this campus, never having seen it before? Well, I will say without hesitation that the people of Duquesne were committed to supporting each one of us in this room and each one of us on the video and each one of us who have departed, to being good people and to doing well, opening our minds, our hearts, and our spirit. So over 4 years, 5 years for some, lifelong friendships were born. And many of us here today are still friends. And I look to Rita and Pat particularly for that. We've been lifelong friends, sharing good times and sad times, learning, constantly learning with each other and from each other. And we benefited, at least I believe so, we benefited from the Holy Ghost Fathers who served us because of their mission. As Ron said, Father Mac's plaque hangs in this building. But really, what did it translate into? It translated into the mission of serving God by serving all of us so that we could serve others. And that was kind of the magic of this place. True, as Ron said and Ken said, we experienced tumultuous times here. Assassinations of our leaders. Every one of us came on the campus after JFK had been assassinated. We experienced the assassination of Bobby Kennedy and of Martin Luther King. We also experienced the fact that many of our friends were called to the Vietnam War and never came back or didn't come back to campus. And the riots across our United States and even here in Pittsburgh impacted us. In fact, those of you who lived in the dorms will remember when Fifth Avenue was burning and we were all sent home and the campus closed down. These were times none of us could ever have imagined when we came here. And we had challenges. But through it all, we matured and we became prepared for the challenges and the changes of our lives. And as Ken said, we've experienced immense changes on this campus. Remember the little houses on the bluff that many of us went to classes in all those years ago? Well, now it's replaced by a beautiful building, but that was the campus we lived on. Or the space in front of St. Martin's and St. Anne's and Assumption Hall that was magically transformed through the carnival days when many of us, for some reason, hit the stage and acted. We didn't know how we did it, but we did it because it's what everyone did. Or, as Ron mentioned, the little garage next door, dilapidated as it was, it became the staging area for Derby days and the craziness of those competitions. Those were good times. And while campus has changed, there are some things, though, that remain the same. We still have the Lord's Grotto, which I'm sure virtually everyone in this room has had an opportunity to see over their 4 or 5 years, or at least, hopefully, during this time. That was a special place of quiet where we could just contemplate. Of course, we heard cars in the background, but it was quiet. And we have our memories of amazing moments in sports. One of our lifelong friends is Gary Nelson. Remember him? Very tall, 6'8" guy with his brother Barry. They were the cog of our championship basketball team. And we had football, and we had a lot of sports. But during our years here at Duquesne itself was facing challenges. And up stepped Rita Furco and Pat Joyce and the third alternative team. They did keep the university alive, no doubt about it. And they did it along with the generosity of many people here in Pittsburgh and abroad, across the United States, as well as the foundation community. But honestly, thank you, Rita, thank you, Pat, and thank you, the third alternative, for the vision and carrying forth that vision into reality. And I would just like us all to clap for them. And for everyone else, like Ron said, he participated. A number of us were privileged to participate. And thank you, Father Mac, as we called him. He's up there in heaven, we all know that. But for the courage, the respect, and the support he gave to all of us who worked during that time on the third alternative, keeping this place alive. And during all these changes, my, didn't we have fabulous music? And music that captured what we were feeling. Just think of the groups, the Beatles, the Who, Smokey Robinson, the Temptations, Aretha Franklin, Simon and Garfunkel, the Rolling Stones, and of course, Bob Dylan. I mean, among that array, there's got to be someone there that you just loved as a musician. So after 54, 55 years, we take a moment, as Father Bill did, to remember all of our friends who have passed on. May they rest in peace. We so treasured our time with them. To thank everyone who educated us so well in mind, heart, and spirit. And to celebrate how blessed we are to still be living and to be with each other here today, whether in person or in spirit. That's the magic of this place. And aren't we lucky? Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Judge Lila Green. You know, the magic of this place is what brings us all back here and brings us together today. So I can't thank you enough for all being a part of this. You know, at this point, I'd like to invite Dr. John McDonough, class of 1965, to join me up here on stage as we induct the members of the classes of 1970 and 71 into the ranks of the Golden Dukes. Now, I'm going to call each member of those classes of 1970 and 71 up here on stage to accept their pins. As you come up on stage, please be sure to put your face masks on. I apologize in advance for any names that I do mispronounce. And make sure to watch your head. I keep second guessing myself here coming up the ramp if you choose to come up the ramp. After receiving your pin here on stage, you may return to your seat. First, I'd like to begin with our committee members for the reunion committees. And if there's anyone that we miss checking in, please be sure to come forward here. Let's start first with the 50th Reunion Committee. Joseph Barker. You're going to get his pin for him? Okay, perfect. Pat Joyce. Rita Furco Joyce. Marilyn Rasa Kale. Yeah, whichever way you'd like. Maureen Lally Green. Marianne Martin. John Nidzwicki. Ronald Selva. And Kathleen Buckley Stropmeyer. Okay, let's have a round of applause for all of our 50th reunion committee members. Okay, next moving into our 1970 class members. Again, when I call your name, please come forward to receive your pin. Susan K. Anderson. Daniel Barshanowitz. Leah Voda Cunningham. John Feldmeyer. Judith Mikolajko Feldmeyer. Elaine Krinkovic Frombach. Janet Grunewald Gray. Okay, we'll get you her pin. Perfect. Karen McCulloch Hessel. Paul Hill. Linda Solande Kaib. James McMahon. Kenneth Morey. Joni Passarelli. Peter Pertoso. Wayne Russo. John Segney. Michael Steele. Ronald Swain. Vito Tutino. Michael Vogel. And Edward Windish. Let's have a round of applause for our Golden Dukes from the 1970s. Is there anyone whose name was not called who's a member of the class of 1970 who didn't get checked in? Come on up. We'll make sure we can get you your pins. We'll get this all taken care of. We will be taking group photos outside on the whatever they call that nowadays, right outside here on the perron. So that way we'll make sure that we can have everybody as a part of the class here momentarily. Carol Quinn Lipchick. Lou Gaspera. And Ann Quinn Traeger. And we also have Ellen Show Vasey as well. Okay, one last round of applause for all of our members of the class of 1970. Okay, moving on to our classmates from the class of 1971. Nancy McGuire Carroll. Barbara Karatke Collin. I second that. You know, I was going to say we need music like at the Emmys when they play you up on stage. Gary DeCroce. Elizabeth Zabalishan Dlugos. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too much for you, Elizabeth. Vincent Dlugos. Martha Eddy. Louis Gaspera. Barbara Einloth Haas. Michael Hricko. Sherry Johnson. Jolene Kern Keenan. Paul Laddish. Barbara Murphy. Richard Murphy. Thomas Ribel. Virginia Captain Rayner. Ellen Vasey Show. Reverend Father James Spontak. Lynn Malonis Stenger. Samuel Witkowski. And Karen Henke Wolk. Now, is there anyone here from the class of 71 whose name we did not call? Come on up. Colleen McMahon Rogers. And Eileen McGrady Flynn. Okay, and Katie Moffat Zepular as well. Let's have a round of applause for all of our new Golden Dukes from the class of 1971. In just a moment, as we're starting to finish up here, I'll ask our Golden Dukes from both 1970 and 71 to step out here onto the balcony for a class photo. Your masks can be removed once you're outside for that photo. And then after the photo, everybody's welcome to come back in here to enjoy your dessert and coffee and spend some time with your classmates. For everybody attending as well, while we were eating, we had some Duquesne 2021 face masks that were delivered by our Office of Student Life downstairs. They'll be available for you over here at the registration table. I'm going to go off script for just a minute. Just thank you so much for all attending here today. It's really a pleasure to hear the stories. For those of us that graduated a little bit after you, but to hear these stories and hear all of these things that have gone on to really make this campus so special and what's really kind of transcended generations to be a part of that. And I want to make this my personal invitation to each of you that for those of you that raised your hands and said you haven't been on campus in the last 5, 10, however many years, don't be a stranger. There are so many opportunities for you to just come back, whether it's to just have be a part of Mass in the chapel, to cheer on the Dukes over on Rooney Field or over at the UPMC Cooper Fieldhouse. There's always a home here for you at Duquesne, and I want to make sure that each one of you can continue to keep coming back to showcase what a great part of the Duquesne family you are. So back on script, let me get here. So hope to see you all on campus through the remainder of this weekend for all of our events that the Office of Alumni Engagement has planned. At this point, for those of you who are in those classes of 1970 and 71, as you head out to the balcony, the class of 1970 will be on the left side, and the class of 71 will be on the right. Audrey Tierney here from Alumni Engagement is going to help to line everyone up from the photos. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being a part of today's event. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and go Dukes.